Hey guys, we're back. This time we're taking a look at Star Trek Ascendancy's character race expansion here for the Cardassian Union. These things took forever to come out. They're finally out. You can buy them in stores. And each one adds a new playable race to the game, in this case the Cardassians. It comes with all the ships, the player board, everything you need to add them to your game. You can use them to add an additional player to the game, or to just add some more variety to the 3 original races that came in the box set. The boxes are actually quite a bit bigger than I expected. Hard to tell when you're looking at the pictures and things of them, but they're actually really long. I think they're the same width as the normal game box. And lots of stuff in here. You got a bunch of ships, control nodes, all your various resource nodes. There's 9 new planet tiles plus a home system for the Cardassians. Got a bunch of new Explorer cards, new dashboard, and all that stuff. Anyway, we're going to get right in and take a look. Now, of course, I've already had these open and punched them because we've been playing. And everything's kind of in baggies right now. But we'll get to those. First thing we have is our rules flyout. This has all the new rules you need to play the new race. Also has a contents list of everything that's in here. Nothing's too new in this set. Pretty much expansions on the rules for the base game. We have here the annexation. Cardassians are very aggressive. They kind of get a bonus to taking over things that are already colonies and things that are already there. So you're going to get a bonus to your culture for that. The trade-off is that they need to occupy a system in order to get production generated from planets that they control. So you kind of have to spread out your fleets to keep a ship in orbit in order to generate anything from your production nodes, which is a nice balance to what they have. There's some new exploration cards in there. A couple of Crisis ones, which are kind of interesting. They're both actually shown there with the new rules for them. They're pretty self-explanatory on the cards. There's a couple new phenomenons for the Briar Patch and the Badlands, which are nice. And then Cardassian tactics are explained on the back here. For our control board, I love how these are all themed to the various races. Same as all the others. You have your weapons on one side, shields on the other. The occupation rules on here, as well as the annexation rule. There we have our ship models. The standard Galer class, pretty much the staple of the Cardassian Union. You get 30 of those. Next we have our fleets. Same ship models with the fleet bases on them. You, of course, get 1, 2, and 3 of those for your various fleets. And your control knobs for your board here. Next we have our control nodes. These are a neat aspect of this game where they're all quite thematic to the race. These have that pointy architecture reminiscent of DS9, which is very Cardassian. Then we have our bag of resource nodes. They're the same ones from the base game. You get 7 new production nodes, 7 new research nodes, but only 5 new culture nodes. This is where the box gets a little messy because they didn't really give you a good way to store this. I'm planning on putting all these in the base box anyway, but we have a bunch of new trade lanes and huge mess of tokens that are dumped all over inside my box. You of course get 5 new Ascendancy tokens for your new playable race. And we get, it's upside down, Cardassia Prime, our new starting planet for the home of the Cardassians. And we get our stack of 9 new planets here. Some of these you might know from various episodes. Sigma Draconis, Regulus 5, Magna Roma, Curl, Gorellus, Peridian 3, Bajor, and the Briar Patch and the Badlands. A lot of mix in there of hazardous systems as well. I think there's 2 or 3. Two hazardous planets, both phenomena. You get a whole pile of new command tokens. I think there's 10 there. New pile of warp tokens. I don't think they were really necessary. I don't think we've ever used all the ones that came in the base set, but they're there if you need them. Another pile of research tokens. Another pile of production tokens, which you're going to be needing because you're going to be mass producing those ships so you can get them out there to make sure you have a ship in orbit around all of your planets in order to generate more production. And a very small handful of culture tokens. This is one thing I don't understand about this game. One of the main goals is to build up culture tokens. You trade 5 culture tokens for an Ascendancy token, but the game itself shorts you ridiculously on the number of culture tokens. So anybody who tries to hoard them or save them up, because you might not want to spend them the second you get to 5. You might want to get to 6 or 7 so you have a couple spares so you can do something else as well. And they tend to run short. I think we run out every game we play. And then we have probably my biggest pet peeve of the set. I had this problem with the original game too. These are your space station tokens. And on the flip side, despite the fact that they're Cardassian, have Federation stations. I don't understand why they didn't use the faction-specific station artwork. It already exists, so it just seems silly that they didn't use it. They do have the really nice 3D printed. They do have the really nice 3D printed stations available. I think they're 3 in a pack for $10 or so. It's a little pricey, especially when you figure you got 5 races to buy for now, but they are an option out there if you're looking for the actual faction themed stations. Finally, we get into our cards. You have the cool little phase card here with the building phase and command phase. Tells you all the things that you can do on each. Same as the ones for the original races, just these have the Cardassian icons on them. Then we have our 3 fleets. And being the overly aggressive race that they are, I think they have a couple interesting fleets here. Let's see which is which. Alright, so we have the Hunter-Killer fleet, which in the first round of space battles, all the ships count as a hit. The only drawback is it's only a fleet of 3. But 3 guaranteed hits every time you go into battle with it. It's kind of interesting. On the flip side of that, we have a 9-ship, just marauding fleet there. Fleet number 2, we have the Overseers. And if this fleet occupies a Cardassian-controlled system during resource generation, it doubles the production generated by that system. Can't be used over Cardassia, but you can use it on, say, a planet that has 2 or even 3 production nodes and double the production of that planet. So definitely has its uses. You are tying up 3 ships to do it instead of just 1, but definitely early game, if you have 3 ships in a fleet and you only have 1 or 2 planets, you can park this up there and boost your production up. On the flip side of that, again, another 9-ship marauding fleet. And then fleet number 3 is our assault fleet. Whenever it's doing planetary invasions, it re-rolls 1s. It's a 6-ship fleet. And the Cardassians have that annexation rule where you get the extra culture every time you invade. So you're going to be wanting to build this fleet to go around to invade the planets to get that extra culture. And re-rolling is nice as well. And again, on the back of that one is another 9-ship marauding fleet. So next we have our trade agreements. Same basic trade agreements that all the starter races had, 1, 2, and 3. Trade these with the other players to generate extra production. Next we have our exploration cards. These ones are kind of cool, these new crisis cards. And basically, if there's a Cardassian rival at the table that's not you and you draw this, you're going to put one of their ships in the system. If you are the Cardassians or there isn't one in play, it's going to be the player to your right. You put one of their ships in there. It basically forces confrontation, and there's a bunch of different ones in here. There's one for the Feds, one for the Romulans. Pretty much each of the 5 races there. think there's two. Yeah, there's two Cardassian. Oh no, that one's different. So yeah, there's one for each of the 5 races there. And it forces you to interact with the other players. Even if you've like walled yourself in and nobody can get to you, one of these can put an enemy ship in your system, and then you have to deal with them. Now, what happens between those 2 ships once they're there? If you want to make a trade agreement, if you want to make an alliance, if you want to attack each other, that is completely up to the players to decide. But it's kind of cool that early on, one of these could pop up on the first turn, and suddenly you have a ship in your neighboring system to your home planet, and you got to figure out what you want to do with it. The Armistice Accords is a really interesting one. If it comes up, you have to choose one of your systems that's not your home system and exchange it with either the player to your right or a Cardassian rival if there's one in the game. That one can really cause some turmoil depending on what you have to offer. If you have like a moon that only has 1 node on it and it's got junk on it, basically nothing but a colony node, and you can switch with somebody and say the only thing they have is a planet generating culture and resource, you know, all 3. They have to give you that, and you can give them whatever one you choose. So you get to choose which system you want, but if they only have certain ones available, it can really limit their choices. It works both ways. You can get screwed over by it as well. Then we have Neutron Star, which is an event. Cardassian Delegation. If you have a trade agreement set up with the Cardassians, all of your trade agreements pay out right then, which is kind of cool. And then a pre-warp civilization and a level 3 warp-capable civilization to put in the mix. These new exploration cards get mixed in with the ones that are currently in the game, so it kind of changes up the chances of drawing what you would expect. If you've been playing for a while, you kind of know how many of each type of cards in there. You can kind of anticipate what's going to come. Well, we've gotten a lot of warp civilizations lately, so the next one's probably going to be an event or something, and so these will mess up the mix a little bit. And then finally we have our advancement deck, and our starting advancement for the Cardassians gives them an extra command token right from the beginning, which is nice because you're going to be wanting to mass produce those ships, and having extra commands to form fleets or move fleets around is really going to help you. The rest of their advancements are a nice mix of generating resources and bonuses to combat. I see mostly I'm going to focus as a Cardassian player on building up my weapons and shields, because you're going to be doing attacks to annex planets. Then you go for research later, I think, to get the extra bonuses and really boost things up. At least that would be my plan of attack on them. And that's it there. That's a look at everything that comes in the Cardassian expansion for Star Trek Ascendancy. Everything you need to play the new race or add a new player to your games. It's the Cardassians have always been one of my favorite races, so I've been having some interesting fun trying them out, and haven't really gotten to a big game yet. We've only played, the biggest we've played is a 3-player since I picked these up. But definitely like the interesting change to the way they play. Need more ships. They do sell the escalation packs, which are a small pack for each race, and they have a handful of ships and a bunch more nodes, control nodes here. And they might be worth getting, but again, you have to buy one of those for every faction you want to play, so if you buy it for one, you got to buy it for all. Keep that in mind. But the way the Cardassians are set up, where you have to keep a ship in orbit on every planet in order to get those production tokens, and you really need production because you're going to be building more ships, because you're going to be doing those invasions, trying to get that bonus culture for invading, and you're going to lose ships along the way, so you're going to have to build more ships to make more, you know, to put more out there. The real limitation is with the 3 fleets that you have, you want to keep those fleets full to make use of their bonuses, especially the one that attacks planets. At the same time, you're taking casualties. You have to leave ships behind on each of the planets you do take over in order to generate the resources. So you spread your resources pretty thin. So you really want to leave one ship behind in former systems and try to make a wall of ships to protect your outer borders. And it's definitely a different play style than you've seen with the Federation or the Romulans. Similar to the Klingons in the fact that they're very aggressive, but at the same time that having to hold back and protect your assets is kind of a unique new mechanic as well. Overall, though, I really like the expansion. It adds a lot to the game, even if you're not looking for the extra players. Just the fact that now you have a fourth race to choose from is definitely a bonus. Keep in mind, the more players you play with, the longer your games are going to be. Star Trek Ascendancy is already a long game, so if you're going to look at playing a 4 or 5 player game, expect it to take the better part of a day. Don't go into it thinking it's going to be a 2-3 hour game. Other than that, though, really cool pack. They were delayed for, God, almost a year. But now that they're out there, hopefully they can get back on track and get these coming out. And can't wait to see what else they have for us in the future. And I did want to throw out there that fitting all of this into the normal box that the game came in is going to be a challenge. The insert pretty much only holds exactly what's in there. So the first thing you're going to have to do in your base game is toss the insert. You can fit all of this back in the expansion box that it came in, but then you got to carry around these big boxes, and they're actually quite large. And to cut down on that, the first thing I did, I'm getting rid of the insert in the base box, because it's not going to hold any of the expansion stuff. The planet tokens definitely aren't going to fit. The rest of it you might be able to squeeze in. They're going to be the problem. But what I do have from a different game, there was a Star Trek collectible card game, and it had these really cool deck boxes, and they are the perfect size to fit the components. And what I plan on doing is taking, and they have these cool race things on them too. I happen to have the Cardassian one here, but I plan on putting the starter planet, all the ships, the tokens for the board here, your starting Ascendancy, your starting supplies, your command tokens, everything you need to play this race, the fleet cards and whatnot, and I plan on keeping them in these boxes. And they have one of these for every fleet that is out right now, except the Ferengi. There is a Bajoran one, which I plan on getting that and just printing out a Ferengi logo to put over it. But they work great for that. You can store these right in the original box for the game, and everything will fit in there nicely. And then when you go to play, somebody says, hey, I want to play the Cardassians, you hand them this box, and they're good to go. So definitely something cool to look into. And I'm sure some of you out there are going, hey, I never thought of that. But it's a really cool idea, and I love it. And that's how I'm going to be storing my expansions. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the look at the Cardassian expansion for Star Trek Ascendancy. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.